Have you ever seen a piece of content or art or even just a random thing that someone made and you were just like, damn, I wish I had an award to give for that? In this video, I want to talk about what makes something cool and how anyone can make cool things, because I'm convinced that it has nothing to do with your natural talent or how good or bad your art looks. It has everything to do with intent and taste. How many times have you gotten done with one of your drawings or paintings or digital arts or whatever medium you use, and you're just not happy with it? You'll spend hours or days or weeks tweaking and refining your work until finally you get something that you like. But even after all that work, when you show it to other people, they don't really care. It doesn't matter how long you worked on something or how much time and effort you put in. If nobody appreciates it or understands it, it can feel like a waste. This happens to writers too. I've written stories that took me months to finish, only to have them receive little to no feedback. When this happens, it can be easy to start questioning yourself and your work. Are you wasting your time? Is it pointless to keep trying? Is this the wrong thing to be passionate about? When you think about making art or content or anything, you always need to ask yourself two questions. What am I making this for? And how am I going to stand out? If you can't answer those two questions, then I would say that you are either still figuring yourself out, which is fine, or you are too busy worrying about what other people think, and that's also fine, but you shouldn't let it stop you from making stuff. Let's go ahead and dive right into it. So the first question you should always be asking yourself is, why are you making this? Why do you do the things you do? And you may think that this is obvious. Well, I make videos because I enjoy making videos. Well, yeah, okay, but why do you enjoy making videos? What does that actually mean? For most creators, including myself, I could have answered this question with a simple answer a few years ago. I love art, so I draw. Or I love movies, so I make movies. But as you grow and you mature, you realize that there is more to why you do what you do. There has to be more to it than simply liking the thing you're doing. What if we look at some of our favorite pieces of media? Like, for example, let's look at the series Attack on Titan. What's so interesting about that anime? What makes it stand out among the hundreds of other anime that are released every year? Well, yes, it does have amazing animation, writing, sound design, everything is top notch. But I think what makes it different is why the creator created it in the first place. Hajime Sayama has said that he wanted to create a world where humanity was wiped out. That might seem weird, but I think that his intention behind this was to comment on the human condition. He wanted to explore what it meant to be human in a world without hope. And I think that's really powerful. He didn't just want to create something cool, he wanted to say something. You know, another thing that I really love about Attack on Titan? They aren't afraid to kill off characters. You never know who's gonna die next. And even though the animation and fight choreography is really awesome, it's the emotional impact of these death scenes that make them so memorable. If the creator wasn't so committed to his vision, he probably wouldn't have been willing to kill off so many beloved characters. So the reason I bring this up is because I think that as creators, we tend to lose sight of our original intentions. As we get more and more caught up in the aesthetics and the technical aspects of our work, we forget about what really matters, why we started in the first place. I'm definitely guilty of this myself. There were times when I got so caught up in the visual presentation of my videos that I lost sight of the point that I was trying to make. This is a problem that plagues pretty much every field, not just art or entertainment. One of the most successful businessmen of our time, Elon Musk, is known for setting audacious goals and pushing the boundaries of what's possible. However, it's not uncommon for large companies that have a founder like this to become complacent once that founder passes on or moves on to other things. Microsoft, Apple, and Disney are all companies that have experienced significant decline after the departure of their founding members. Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, and Walt Disney were all innovators who had a clear vision for their respective companies. They were passionate about creating products and experiences that pushed the boundaries of what was possible. However, once these founders stepped away from day-to-day operations, the companies they built began to stagnate and in some cases decline. This isn't because these companies didn't have talented leaders after the founders, but rather because they lost sight of the original vision that made them so successful in the first place. That's why I'm encouraging you to think deeply about your own motivations for making art. What do you want to say with your work? What kind of impact do you want to make on the world? By clarifying your purpose, you'll be able to create work that is more intentional, more meaningful, and more impactful. You can create with intention rather than out of obligation. Now, the second question you need to ask yourself is, how are you going to stand out? How are you going to make sure that people appreciate what you made? Now, you may be thinking that the answer to this question is simple. Well, I'm going to make something that looks good. But I would argue that that's actually one of the worst ways to try to stand out. Make something that looks good and is such a vague and subjective statement that it's almost impossible to do. What looks good to one person may not look good to another. Plus, there are already millions of pieces of art out there that already look good. So how are you supposed to make something that looks even better? There's an artist named Beeple who sold a piece of art for $69 million. Now, I know that seems absolutely insane, but here's the thing. People didn't buy that piece of art because it looked good. It looked terrible. People bought that piece of art because of the story behind it. Beeple is a guy who was making digital art for 20 years without any recognition or success. But one day, he decided to challenge himself to make a piece of art every day for 5,000 days. And after 5,000 days, he had created a piece of art that was truly epic. It was a collage of images that spanned his entire career and captured the highs and lows of his journey as an artist. That's why it sold for so much money. It wasn't just a beautiful piece of art. It was a piece of art with a story. It was a piece of art that captured the hearts and minds of everyone who saw it. And that's the secret to standing out. It's not about making something that looks good or technically perfect. It's about making something that connects with people on an emotional level, something that they can relate to, something that speaks to their experiences, their hopes, and their dreams. And I know that's easier said than done. But the only way to make something like that is to be bold. It's scary to put yourself out there and to risk it all on your art. But that's what it takes to stand out. That's what it takes to connect with people on a deeper level. Now, I know that this may not make sense to you right now. You may be thinking, yeah, but how do I do that? And the answer is, I don't know. Only you know your story. Only you can figure out how to tell it. You can't just go around copying other people's stories and expect to succeed. You need to be authentic. You need to be true to yourself. I used to hate this advice when I was younger. I couldn't understand why everyone told me to be myself when I felt like I didn't know myself at all. But I realized that being yourself isn't about being popular or trendy or fitting in. It's about being real, being genuine, being honest. And that's what makes something cool, being real. It doesn't matter if you're a businessman or an artist or a musician or a writer. If you're not being real, if you're not being true to yourself, then what you make will never be cool. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing for more content like this in the future. Thank you for watching and have a great day.